So I'm preparing the Facebook Live, which is going to be on my Facebook page.
Let me go have a quick look there as well, just to see what it looks like.
Yeah. Well, I can see you there.
Ah, you can already. Okay.
Yeah. We have two ladies there. Obviously, Jamila is my other half.
Yes.
Hi.
She's checking on me, and
just everything is okay, and I'm sure I can learn a thing or two.
All right.
Yeah.
You may. We'll all share what we know.
Hi, Vincent.
Hello, Jamila.
I don't think we have met before.
No, we haven't. We haven't.
Yeah.
I hear a lot about you from Ahmad, of course.
When I make this poster, there was a message from America from someone who says that how come this is the only man and where is the women? I said I agree that it takes two to tango, but without any difficulty in almost all the program, whenever we conduct for parenting, you can be assured the ladies will be there.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yes. So there was a thing that I said, when we celebrate Mother's Day, obviously so many mothers will be around. When we celebrate Father's Day, the same thing happened. The mothers outnumbered the fathers for celebrating Father's Day. So you can imagine how things have been, obviously, the need to step up the game.
Even many of my friends were asking, is there such thing as Men's Day? So nobody knew when we shared the poster.
Oh.
Very good.
Yeah, today is the 19th, is globally, they celebrate Men's Day.
Ahmad, where are you sharing it on your Facebook page?
It's on my account. Ahmad
Yes.
Fatih, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. And do I go to videos or are you streaming it live on your page? I don't see it yet.
It's there now. Do I have to play it or not? I'm not sure whether.
I suspect you have to do something because the last post from you was from 2 hours ago. I don't see anything else.
It's lagging. It's lagging. I can see now. I can see Jamila now, of course. I can see Shairos, which is so much thinner now. I know you're doing a good walk, brother. So keep it up. I'm doing my cycling. Yeah, but just watch the post-mortem after walking, because I could see also lots of plates. By the way, today we celebrate Men's International Day with the theme of better health for men and boys.
All right.
Yeah, that's the theme for today. So hopefully we'll get a good understanding. I'm not sure whether we have been hearing this. I mean, one thing is the topic on fatherhood has not been exactly discussed a lot in many forums. It's always parenting, it's always mothers, it's always the children, but not many parenting, fatherhood. And then I think the other thing that I thought that wasn't be made easily, raising the awareness, is understanding from a different culture. So that's where I thought that this is something for us to widen up, and obviously we should not take people for granted. Yep. Okay. Tell me, Mr. Kalman, Cik Fatimah, welcome.
Thank you.
Fatima is from Muscat, actually.
Oh.
But she will be, she'll have to leave early because she has an assignment to do. She has to run off to Muscat shortly.
So we have someone from Muscat to join also. That's very good then. So just a couple more minutes before we could continue and start our session, and I'm not sure whether if Joshua is not around yet, so we'll probably proceed with you, Winston, and then Shiros, and then we'll see how things are.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm just dropping to Joshua to say that the line is open now. We're starting in 2 minutes.
We have more than 30 participants registered, right, Bang?
Yeah. Well, the last count was 35.
So some of them may not be on Zoom, but they may be watching on Facebook. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. That's also will also probably will happen now. Yeah. Okay, we are 1 minute away from the time, the hour. So I think we would not wait for others. I always said to my team, I like to respect those who come early rather than the Malaysian way is always wait for the people who come later than the time.
Yep, and not punish people who are on time.
The German, that's what they do.
Really?
The German, you can't, if you come early, they won't entertain you. But if you come late, they will not wait for you. So if a dinner invitation is at 8, you come at 10 to 8, 7:50. They don't. I was told that they will not welcome you yet. You have to come sharp at 8.
You know, I lived and worked in Switzerland for 5 years, and it was the only place in the world where people would make appointments like this, okay? Ahmad, can I see you this afternoon? Yes. I have a meeting that finishes at 12:23. Can I see you at 12:26? Why 12:26? Oh, it takes me 3 minutes to walk back from my meeting to you. So it's the only place in the world where I worked where people didn't do meetings on the hour or on the half an hour. It'll be 12:26, 12:21, 12:20. You know, very, and if you were late, I mean, they will let you know clearly. The face will tell you that this is not acceptable. You know, when I lived there one day, their train was late by 3 minutes. It was front page news. Everybody in the office was talking about it. Hey, the train was late. Can you imagine how seriously they take punctuality?
3 minutes late.
3 minutes. And I told them, guys, where I am sometimes, I can go to the station master and ask him 1 hour later, pukul berapa nak pergi Gemas? He said, tak tahu. He does not even know. And you guys, 3 minutes, you're making a fuss. You're too spoiled. That's all. Ahmad, I think we have started, right? We already streamed. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to everyone all on the air today, 19th of November 2020. So first and foremost, let me just greet you, for especially to the men, Happy Men's International Day.
All right.
And thank you. I mean, for once, the men felt that there is something about them, because most of the time it's either for the women, the mothers, or the children. And it's good to know that this year's theme for the Men's International Day is about better health for men and boys, and health, not only physical health, but also mental health. Despite that, yesterday we had a tragic news that happened somewhere in Negeri Sembilan in Jelebu, whereby a 35-year-old son had an argument with the father, 59 years old, when the father chided him about playing the handphone and too long. Because of that, they had an argument. Because of that, it becomes wild. And because of that, the son stabbed onto the father. I think this is something that shouldn't have happened. It is a tragic situation, in my opinion. And I think there is a proactive measure that needs to be done, especially for men who are called fathers in terms of their relationship with their children. So this is our webinar, Zoomina session, where we will be focusing on the topic fatherhood, learning from the cultural perspective. And today, I have invited 3 panelists to join us in a no holds bar. And I think this is a learning session where, despite we have coexisted within the different races in Malaysia for more than 60 or more than half a decade, we have not really learned from one another. What are some of the uniqueness and what are some of the commonality that we want to share within the different races, i.e. the Chinese, the Indian, as well as the Malay. There are a lot of historical forces, there are a lot of traditional, and therefore it causes lots of stereotyping amongst us. So today, I think we want to bring forward the things that we want to discuss, the undiscussable about the subject. We want to frame the thought about fatherhood in terms of their roles and how it has evolved throughout the years. So therefore, each and every of the panelists here will be sharing their personal experiences as well as their insight and further their foresight in trying to enlighten us on how we can become better fathers and certainly avoid the situation that happened yesterday then. So we will be doing on 4 rounds, because the first round is all about providing some insight and information about fathers, their roles in their cultural perspective, yeah. And then once we finish the first round, then we move to the second round, whereby we will be highlighting about the future or the challenges, where we will be seeing things about the new image of fatherhood in view of the digital era and a lot more contemporary issues that we did not experience as we grew up with our fathers or even grandfathers then. And then we will have some question and answer from the audience through the chat, and we will respond from there. And as we're about to wrap up, then I will allow each panelist to present their thoughts, final remarks on what do they think in synthesizing this then. We will roughly get about 7 to 10 minutes for each panelist to share their thoughts. So let me just quickly introduce now to you the 3 panelists. Number 1 will be Mr. Winston Das. Thank you for coming, Winston.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, Winston, obviously he is Ipoh boy. Sorry, he's from Johor. He was born there, and I'm aware about Winston, who been living in an estate environment despite his parents working as a teacher. So that is something that all of us may not have any choice when we were born who would be our parents. He is married with a 20-year-old daughter and has been obviously moving in his education. And interestingly, his first 10 years being a father spent abroad, 5 years in Singapore and 5 years in Switzerland then. So Winston, share your thoughts as we go along afterwards. And then we move to our next panelist, Mr. Shairos Muhammad Othman. Shairos is already happily married for the last 18 years, and he has 4 boys, slightly less than me. I have 5 boys, and he's an Ipoh boy and working in Berjaya Corporation now, and very active in Toastmastering and also coaching the youth in public speaking. Shairos, welcome then. And our the other panelists would be Joshua, and I know Joshua is still not in, but he is a very active person in community and youth development. He is now the chairman of the Better Dads Malaysia. Is married with 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl, and hopefully he can enlighten us from his own background in the Chinese community then. So without much ado, let me now proceed with Winston for you now to provide your insight as you grew up, Winston, in this family that you were growing then. Unmute yourself and go over to you, Winston.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon. Yes, as Ahmad said, I'm 61 years old, actually. Married for 30 years, and I have come on over here. And this is the love of my life.
Oh.
Okay. I grew up in a in an estate, a rubber and oil palm estate. No electricity for the first 16 years, that sort of thing. My parents were Tamil school teachers. Very conservative Christians, so I was brought up in a very conservative Christian environment. My father had a very high sense of integrity. I mean, he was a teacher. What do you expect? Very high sense of integrity and discipline. So that's how I grew up. And I think many of the things that I do with my child, my wife and my daughter sometimes gang up on me and say, "You are behaving typically like your father would have." But the reality is, we mimic the people that children mimic us. I mean, we'll talk about it in a minute, but we learn from experience. That's how I was brought up. That's the only way I know how to bring up a child as well. So it was a tough upbringing, very strict punctuality, discipline, integrity, that sort of thing, growing up in my life. And for the first 9 years of being a father, we lived abroad, 5 years in Singapore. And then the other 5 years, I was actually a remote control father because we lived in Switzerland, but I worked in Barcelona every week. So I only came back home for the weekends to see my daughter for about 4.5 years or so. So that's the background of how this whole thing started. But I want to start by talking about something that I read somewhere by a person who was a prisons director in Singapore. His name is Jason Wong, and he said, mothers protect children by preventing them from getting hurt. Fathers protect them by preparing them for the future so they won't get hurt in the future. And if you think about the way we act as fathers and mothers, very often, I think we look like the bad guy, because we take a definitive tone, we take a tougher tone on things, whereas mothers tend to want to always protect them, even from us, if you look at the way we do things. So in my case, bringing up my child, I had a number of rules that I guidelines and rules that I always kept drilling into her head. And the most important thing I always told her was, above everything, integrity is what you must show all the time. And I'm proud to say that she has done a great job of that. And I've seen examples of other parents coming and telling us, your child has great integrity. We wanted her to watch a movie which was only for 16-year-old children, and because she was 12, she actually took a book and went to another room to sit and read instead of watching a 16 movie with us. So that was, I'm glad that she picked up the integrity values. I've always, among the family, my parents brought me up this way: treat people how you want to be treated. Wherever you go, in a restaurant, anywhere, even in a restaurant, I expect her to say good morning, thank you, and smile at every waiter and waitress. Because they are no less than you. They are at least, and I always say to her, at least they are working and earning money. You're not doing anything. You're just, literally skiving off me. So they are working hard for a living. All the people you meet in restaurants and everything, they are working hard for a living. So they are better off than you in many ways because they're independent. Always be punctual. I'm deathly punctual, and I expect my family to be like that, unfortunately. And my daughter has learned that that's really important. Friends and acquaintances are two different things. And I've tried to explain that friends are people you can always trust, and friends can become acquaintances if they let you down or you realize you cannot trust them. They still remain somebody you know, but you know they cannot remain your friends. And for my family, I always tell them my friends list are the people who are invited to my house for Christmas. And this will be the same people who I'll invite to my daughter's wedding. So, I joke about it, but I try to explain that there should be a difference between friendship and acquaintances. At the same time, in the family, I explained that love and discipline are also two different things, for me at least. Discipline is part of love, and love may not be disciplined. So, for example, if there's a situation where something needs to happen involving my child, for me, discipline means discipline. We had an agreement, you broke the rules, there are certain things that will now happen. My wife would prefer to take the love approach and protect her instead of, doing the discipline thing. But, that's the way we operate. The next one is a bit tough. It's my house, my rules. If you think you know better than me, please go ahead and rent a house, go and earn a living somewhere, do whatever you want. It's okay with me. You are 20 years old, you can go out and do whatever you want. But this is my house. I kill myself working to get to where I am. I'm not letting somebody else come and tell me how to, do things in my own house or how you will behave in my house, including using Wi-Fi, air conditioning, switching off or switching on the lights whenever you feel like it. This is my house. I pay for everything. So just get used to the fact that the rules will be mine. When you think, and if you think your friends' parents are much kinder, ask your friends' parents to adopt you. I'm happy as well. And let them go and pay for the bills and all that. But that's the way we have lived our life. And I think, going back to what I said earlier about parents preparing children for the future, my role, I believe in that. I also tell her that I'm your father, not your friend. Your mother is your friend. I'm not. I'm your father. I have to play a tough role very often. And therefore, I will take a position on things that your mother may not, but that's the way things will be. And the last thing is, nothing in life is free. You have to earn it. So even as a child, because we lived abroad and I was an expatriate, so, being an expatriate, we earn a lot of money and we can spend it quite freely. I made it clear to her that you're not going to get anything for free. You want a tricycle? Go and memorize the capitals of 25 countries. You want a bicycle? Go and do 75 countries. You want to go to Florida? Do all the capitals of the world. You want to go for a concert? Go into a presentation on World War I and World War II and tell me what happened. And that sort of thing, so that you will always realize that nothing in the world is free, that I got to earn it. So that's how, from a rules and guidelines point of view for my child, those were the sort of rules that I used. Ahmad, do you want to talk about, what I would say to other fathers, other parents, or is that something we do at stage 2?
Do that in stage 2, but just enlighten us some points about what would be in the typical Indian culture, would the values that you want to instill to children, and probably that's just to touch that point only for the time.
You brought up an excellent point. For us, it was a huge issue because she lived in Singapore for 5 years, went to an American school. And then when we lived in Switzerland, she also went to an American school. And my daughter actually thought she was American because she hung around with all these American children, both white, black, whatever. But essentially, it was a very American in a way. And I kept telling her one thing all the time, and my friends used to laugh. I said, go look in the mirror, and what you see looking at you will be an Indian girl who looks like your father and your mother. You're not going to see somebody who is white, or Caucasian, you're going to see an Indian person. And we Indians have a way of behaving. There are many things that we do that reflects us. Even simple things like stand up when somebody older comes into the room. Don't cross your leg in front of your parents. Don't ever swear. Thankfully, my daughter has never sworn. If she did, I would slap her. Don't ever swear. Don't use foul language ever. Be respectful and use the right terms to refer to people who are older than you. Eat with your right hand. All of those very Indian things that we did. And part of that is also because of the religious background that, some of the religious background we're trying to give into her. But and that's also one of the reasons why I left Switzerland and came back to Malaysia instead of going to the US when I had an opportunity. I was terrified that my 9-year-old child would go to the US and become truly American. And we would lose that entire culture part of her, and we came back. So my daughter speaks fluent Mandarin, fluent German, and of course fluent Tamil. Because my wife only spoke to my daughter in Tamil while I spoke to her in English. And we want her to remember always that you are an Indian and your grandparents were Tamil school teachers in an estate. So that's where our background is. That's how where your father started. Don't ever forget that, that kind of thing. So very Indian in our way in terms of the typical thing you would expect from Indians of my generation. I expect my daughter to follow many things. Now, when you come to stage 2 of our conversation, you'll see where the changes have taken place, the influence of Facebook and everything, but that's a different story.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks for your sharing, because I think you have a diversified, obviously, background, and the certain requirement that you have highlighted to us in terms of the do's and don'ts, and you make it very clear to your daughter what are some of the parameters and ground rules that they have to do. They are obviously different from how others would raise their children. It's a question of wanting to be tough, but there's also the concept of tough love in parenting. And I think that's where you were talking about this issue of love and discipline. I think moving on to Shairoz now. Shairoz, I suppose you would have your own upbringing when you were in Ipoh, and seeing how your parents and also probably the community surrounding you that have raised who you are now, and how. So what are some of the values that is being instilled to you, especially by your father as you were growing up? Over to you, Shairoz.
Thank you very much, Fakri, and my super dads all in the screen today. Super dad, Superman, all of you today. Firstly, I would like to say, upbringing is one of the key character of a boy or a son, because why? That upbringing particularly reflects the entire family. How my father, I would like to firstly start with my father. We are a very small family. I and my other sister, just two of us. We were brought up in Ipoh, a very small family. Because why? I see my father is a very fatherly person. He always put priority to the family. Whenever we go out together. Whenever we eat together. Whenever we go to the mosque, we go together. Whenever we go out for dinner, we go together. Even mealtime at home, we eat together. So this upbringing, like what Winston mentioned just now, things like being respectful to elders, whenever people comes to the house, how to greet and how to speak and what to say, not to raise your voice. These are all upbringing. So that so much so, I love to see how he interact, and I would like to copy that. And how my father is a person that interacts with all other races. He is a person that mixes around. He's a teacher. My father is a teacher. He's a music teacher. He always tell me when he taught in the estate, those days he was teaching in the estate, how he helped poor children, especially Indian families in the estate, how they were poor and how he helped. And this, he has always taught us this story of helping others, not to look down to people, and also to be careful of what we have, not to waste food. Some people do not have enough food to eat. And our clothes, school clothes, if you still can wear your uniform, wear it. Because some poorer students are not able to change their uniform. Your school bags, your water tumbler, those things, berjimat cermat, he always say. Syairos, berjimat. Syairos, jimat. And my sister as well. So with that upbringing, my mother plays that supporting role. As I will mention later, father will play this role of being the decision maker in the family. But the mother is the supporting arm. And I will see how my parents have done this, and I will then apply that to my family. Because we are a very young couple, me and my wife, I consider. When we raised up our 4 children, it was a challenge in the beginning. We were just starting work, and then my wife has just started work, and then we had to put 1 or 2 of our kids in Ipoh, one with my mother, one with my in-law. So over the weekends, we have to drive back to Ipoh and visit our baby. And then as they grow slightly older, maybe 2 years old, 3 years old, then we bring them back to stay with us in KL. Oh, it was a challenge. Yes, we meet them often, but not being together with that distance, that was a challenge to me. Especially we were struggling in the beginning to stabilize our work, our career. And that was, I feel, important to have the family together, staying together. And when we managed to get all 4 of them, when they slightly grow up, to live and stay with us, then I feel that this is where we embed the culture which I want them to grow. Because what previously they were staying with their grandparents, obviously grandparents will spoil them. So I feel that whenever they are with me, like Winston mentioned just now, there will be some set of rules. Yes, we love them. There will be some set of rules. When there is time to sleep, you sleep. When there is time for TV, let's watch TV. When there is time to eat, you eat together. But nevertheless, I have to play this disciplinarian role, unlike my wife. My wife will be very busy cooking and preparing meals for the children happily. But I will make sure you bathe on time, you sit during dinner, and when people come to the house, you greet and welcome, prepare some drinks and sit together, and then we go and pray together. What came to me, this element? Because I followed and I resemble back again what my father did. And I believe when I have done that, it has molded this character in me. That character was molded in me. And I felt that very strong personality should be also molded to my kids, especially my 4 boys. I have 4 boys. You can see this picture behind me. I have the frame behind. So these 4 boys, I always tell them, yes, daddy will be very proud of your academic success. Daddy will be very proud of your achievement. But remember, if you do not know how to show respect to elders, if you raise your voice to your mother, I'll give you a slap. But these are the things. Character building is the duty and responsibility of the parents. They are more at home, so we cannot just give that burden to the teacher. The school is not a factory that you change them into angels. So we just send them to school and they transform into angels. No, it doesn't happen. So this is the responsibility which I will share later, the duties and responsibility of the parent. So I will explain a little bit about that later, about how being together with the kids at home and how I play the role of good cop, bad cop. Back to you, Ahmad Fakri.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, very much so aligned with the rest of the studies that have been made. I mean, around the world, the father seems to be the patriarch, the one that maintains in terms of discipline, protecting, and is so consistent in the different parts of the world. And I think in the local Malay culture, there is a lot of their peribahasa or their idioms which resonates very well, like they talk about kemana tumpah kuah kalau tak ke nasi. I mean, where do the gravy fall other than to the rice, or bapaknya borek, anaknya rintik. But there's another one that I just found. Bagaimana rupa, begitulah bayangnya. So whatever the shape of that person is the same shape of the shadow. So it reflects that so important. So the other one that also in the Malay which is not so familiar is bagaimana acuan begitulah gubahannya, or how the mold is, that's how you will see the outcome. So a lot of this wisdom by our elderly folks shows that we play that role of being a good role model, the character building of our own progeny. And the thing is that Shairos has mentioned that the sound of the father's words keep on ringing into our ear. That shows how powerful the father is, even more powerful than any equipment or any rewinding radio or cassette player. Yeah, because I know mothers have that, but in fact fathers also, because fathers don't talk a lot compared to mothers. So with that, let's now move on and learn from, welcome Joshua.
Hi.
Welcome to you, and it's great that you are here to sort of give us the perspective from the other community. I know the Chinese community again has a very strong theme and advocating in terms of how the children should grow up. I've seen a lot of my Chinese friends when I was there. And so we know that you have been very involved in community development, youth development, and knowing that you also a father. And more interestingly is your role as the chairman for this Better Dads Malaysia that was exactly a year ago when it was registered.
Yeah.
So it was great to see you, Joshua. And I know we will certainly make an additional announcement of an upcoming symposium towards the end of our talk.
Thank you.
So can we get some of the participants to mute because of the background distraction, please? Yeah. Okay, I know there are people who are already asking questions, and it's very good. So I do continue welcoming all those people. If you have more than one questions, do so then. For the next then, Joshua, over to you then. What are the values? What is the thing that amongst the Chinese wants their children to grow up and raise?
Well, thank you, Ahmad, for inviting me to this talk, and and thanks for all the partnership throughout this year. So that's why I think anything that Supermom Cool Dad is doing, or Cool Mom Super Dad doing, we will definitely support. Yes, I mean, speaking in terms of Chinese culture, I think in the context of Malaysia, you guys will surely see that, Chinese pay a lot of attention in education, and also the filial piety, because that is I think in terms of Chinese, that is kind of a core value that every Chinese community will have, regardless of the religious background. Although I come from a Christian family, but then because some of my relatives are from different religious background as well, but then the filial piety, as in we honor elderly and honor elders. I heard like the other two guests have shared. I think that shared we do share a lot of commonality among the Asian family, whereby we respect elders. I remember, sometimes my father is busy with all this family gathering. The relative will actually take control. Like if we see some elderly where we do not recognize, the elders will actually remind us to, Joshua, you should call which auntie, and Chinese are very particular in terms of like the paternal aunties and the maternal aunties, we have different names, you know. So Chinese families are very particular on that, and yeah, should not raise your voice and to the elders, and when elders ask you a question, you should stand up and answer, you know. If the elders giving you something, you should stand up and receive it with two hands. I think these are very common Chinese culture. And also Chinese pay a lot of attention of education. I think because like my grandfather migrated to Malaysia many years ago, like 100 years ago, and I think that share among the Chinese family where a lot of these families actually struggle in making a living. So they believe that education will change the livelihood. So on one hand, they work very hard, you know, whether in the estates, in the rubber estate, in the kopitiam, selling Hainan kopi, doing business in the groceries, grocery stores. But then in the same time, so I think a lot of Chinese fathers or Chinese families believe that providing to the family, it's one of the key role of fathers. Then giving the opportunity of education for your children is the other most important task as well. So I think because of that upbringing, so even though I still remember, my dad sent me to this independent Chinese school. In which you guys would recognize all these Dongzhong, school running by Dongzhong, this kind of thing. In fact, I think in early days where Chinese family or Chinese children that couldn't qualify to enter a national school, they will send them to this private school. So previously, this private school were known as, if you cannot make it to the national school, you have to send it to this private school. So the perception of going to a private school is not that good. But then over the years, I think because of this, they spend so much effort on developing the education. Now, in fact, private school, they have raised the standard. So, in fact, the school fees are, to me, I felt like it's kind of like expensive. But then you will see that a lot of Chinese families do, work very hard to send their kids to this private institution, because I think culturally, they believe that education play a big role in the future of their next generation. But then, so my father typically, it's a typical Chinese who work very hard and also spend our money and send us to private school in terms of focusing, emphasizing on education. But then because particularly to my family, because my mom passed away very early. So I think to a lot of Chinese dad, they speak less, they work very hard. But then because my mother passed away very early, I have, there are 5 of us, I have 4 siblings. Then I'm the second boy. My eldest is my sister. But then because of that, I think, I don't know, I have to ask my dad. Somehow he believed that, probably he felt that, he need to make a living to provide for the family, but he has to work. So I remember during the early days, my grandma took care of us for some time, and also my aunties, So whenever he is back for dinner, he will try his very best to make dinner for us. And I actually appreciate one of the things that my dad did is that he actually shared some of his work, like what like what the other 2 guests said. Sometimes we waste food. He would say, he was in the trading business. He said, like all these nuts and bolts, all these hardwares, you can only sell, you have to sell so many in order to, only one screw, you can only make 1 cent, that kind of thing, I think, and also probably because of it's in our blood, of this counting and math, this accounting. He would tell us, like this bowl of rice, this fish, how much it costs, you have to sell so many goods in order to buy this. So in a sense that in fact he is teaching us values, to value stuff. And I know when we were younger we don't really understand, but then when we grow much older, so I kind of like appreciate what my dad did, because not only the Chinese culture upbringing, he also teach us that, you know, you have to value stuff, you know, value food, you know, value people's effort. And my dad is a very kind person. So I think because of the passing of my mother, he do not really have a lot of time with us. But I appreciate that my dad, in fact, he modeled his way to us. In fact, like how he treat my grandfather. I remember, you know, I was raised in Ipoh City, so yeah, we have Ipoh folks here. So I remember like every like all these festive occasion, my dad will bring us back, you know, brought us back to my granddad's house, you know, have dinner with my grandparents. I remember, you know, there was a time, you know, actually a lot of time that my grandfather will tell him stories, you know, what's happening in the Chinese village, you know. So then my dad didn't utter a word. He just stood there, you know, eating his food and listening to grandfather. So I remember there was a time that I was sitting in the car. I asked my father, I said, hey, how come you never respond to grandfather one? You know, yeah, he just keeps telling stories, but why don't you answer him? You know, then my dad told me, in fact, a lot of stories have been told many times. So in fact, he told me during that time, I don't really understand. He said, in fact, granddad just need a person to talk to. So we just stay there and listen to granddad, and that's what you need to do. So yeah, and that was in my memory for a longest time, you know. So until recently, you know, recent years, then I have children, then I think I model after my father, that I'm in KL, so I will try my very best when there is time. I will go back to Ipoh and eat with my father, and I actually did the same without realizing, you know. When my father was talking, I just nod, you know. Then until a time when my elder son asked me, he said, Dad, how come you never answered granddad when you just nod, you know, nod your head and listen? I said, yeah. Then I said, actually, in fact, my father had a lot of friends, you know, but he said, I just told him, you know, sometimes, you know, when grandfather is talking, you know, you just be there and listen to him. So I think what impacted me is actually the kindness and the values within the Chinese culture. In fact, my father actually modeled after us rather than, and I appreciate that, you know. I don't know about the other Chinese families, but to me personally, I think my father is you know, he has the authority to teach us, but he seldom used the rod. You know, when he is really angry and pick up a rod, we were really afraid. But I appreciate that. That's why I think my dad actually disciplined us, but not in terms of, you know, caning us or stuff. And I think that I got it from my dad as well. So I seldom I don't remember a lot, you know. We we don't have a rotan at home. But then I think when I think that is like just now Ahmad shared, you know, it's, I think by definition and by research, you know, father play a authoritative figure in a home, and we respect that. And I appreciate that I never experienced the you know, the rotan a lot, but then still my father managed to impart a lot of good values in me. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, Joshua, thank you for that sharing. It's just so interesting to see that there's a lot of commonalities. By the way, all the three panelists plus myself, we all, one way or the other, grew up in Ipoh. I studied in Anderson. Winston studied in Methodist. Shairos,
Wow.
of course, Joshua, both of you are born and bred in Ipoh. So the Ipoh boys suddenly got together like a
Wow.
magnet.
St. Michael's.
St.
Oh
Michael.
yes, I'm Poilam.
Poilam.
Neighbor.
No, but the other similarity is that you look at the Chinese tradition and culture that talks about the education, and I like to draw your attention to their proverb. the Chinese proverb, Hu Fu, Hu Zi. If you, the father, is a tiger, the son will be a tiger.
Yes, yes,
This
yes.
is equivalent to the English proverb of like father, like son. Of course, Winston, maybe like father, like grandson in future for you then, Winston, because I know you have a daughter, but certainly it has the children. And I also found a very interesting proverb from the Chinese culture. A tree can grow 10,000 feet, but its leaves will always fall back to the roots. Wow, I really thought that is a marvelous metaphor of how, I mean, like you, Joshua, you went back and you unconsciously follow what you have experienced with your father. So, I mean, if anything that we could take away from this, a positive experience from the child about how their father has treated them will come a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Indeed, this is one of the challenges that we as fathers, it's a two dichotomy. One is either too soft, while the other one is going to be too hard. And the question is, where do we pitch? And I think this is the next stage of our discussion. Now that we are faced with both internal and external challenges, internal, it could be the child grew up with their own thoughts and ideas and emotions. Externally, even there is already a question about this online issue of social media, peer and friends, and all the things that make them feel that they will go out of their way and therefore cross the boundaries that you fathers have outlined. So Winston, where do you draw the line and how do you keep them intact with this kind of new challenges that you're facing in light of the new fatherhood image then, Winston?
Thanks, Ahmad. I'm start off with a Tamil proverb. It says, "Arudla valayadadu, aruvadula valayadu," which means if you cannot bend the rod at 6 years, you cannot bend it at 60. It's too late. All right. So I guess what it's basically saying is, spare the rod and spoil the child, maybe one way of looking at it. But basically, if you didn't take the trouble to shape the culture, the background and everything when they were. And by the way, gentlemen, I'm so impressed just by listening to you and talking to you about your parents, because, made me feel, wow, so similar. Our upbringing, our background, despite our cultures, it's so similar. The respect we had for parents and almost the fear. And I remember that, and I learned that a long time ago. My brother gave me the advice when I had a child. He said, remember this, if you don't do what's necessary for your child in the first few years, it's too late. And I've seen that happening now with many of my friends. They didn't take the time in the early years, and now they're struggling because the friends come to me, the children come to me to speak to me, but not to their own parents, because they think Uncle Winston is friendly and listens better than the parents. So that's important. So the first one is religious education and guidelines are a fantastic foundation. Not everybody has the benefit of that. So if you don't have the benefit of religious education, and in my own case, for example, I'm Christian, my wife is Hindu. I said, listen, I will not have time to take her to church and do all those things because I'm always traveling. You do what you have to do. So my child is effectively Hindu. But that doesn't stop me from giving her the moral values and the ethical values that I expect her to have as my daughter, as a member of the community, as an Indian, etc. So see, the thing about religious values and all this is sort of outsource that to the church, the mosque, the temple, because they do all the work, right? You still have responsibilities as a parent to infuse that into your child and make sure that they understand the values, because children will always mimic the parents. We talked about that earlier. So that's the first thing. I think early in life, you have to say what you mean and mean what you say. If they don't get that message clearly, and that's an example of the difference between my wife. My wife is a fantastic mother. She's a great wife. She does everything in this house, and she's so much more useful in this house than I am. And I know that, right? But when it comes to bringing up the child, we have completely different approaches. Her approach is good because otherwise my daughter will have no one to turn to. My approach is slightly different. It is, when I say something, I mean it. I will not change my decision on this. Your mother can. You can do whatever you want with your mother, but not with me, right? So that's very clear. And so you have to do that, and you have to keep up with the trend. It's hard to do the difficult things, but if you don't do the difficult things, someone once said, doing hard things prepares you for hard times. It's so important. If you don't do the hard things now, later when you have to do it, you won't know how to do it. Don't make threats unless you expect to carry them out. If you don't do this, I won't give you dinner. My wife would say that I have done it, which is why my daughter knows that when I say come here, it means come here. It doesn't mean anything else. But it's important that we have a message clear that this is the way we do things, right? And I've only hit my daughter once in her entire life. She was very, very, very naughty. I took a newspaper, I started rolling it. And at the end of it, I told her, this newspaper is like a Japanese samurai sword. When the samurai takes out his sword, he can only put it back in after he draws blood. In your case, I have to hit you once. And I've never hit her, but she remembers that clearly. And she knows that when I say something, I actually mean it. And I think that's important, right? In these times, I think we have to spend what we call quality time with our children. That's one of the biggest differences from my father's time versus mine. I can see the difference. My father was too busy earning 800 ringgit a month or something and trying to feed 6 children and a wife. He was running around trying to get his work done all the time. And in his culture, in those days, they didn't speak to us. They just told us what to do and we did it. I remember, I've never ever said no to my father. Until he died, I've never ever said no to my father. I just didn't have the guts to do it. But that's the way we were. My daughter says no to me every time now. But that's the way I brought her up. I brought her up that way because I could see the difference. If you don't spend quality time with them and explain things to them, they won't understand why you want them to do things in a certain way. No, my father was strict and didn't communicate. He just told us what to do. I'm equally strict, and my wife tells me that all the time, but I communicate. I explain to her why it's important that we do things in this way. Is it a culture issue? Is it an integrity issue? Or is it how people will look at you and those things? 1 ringgit in the pocket is better than 1 ringgit in somebody else's pocket because they spend money too easily. So she complained to me. She said, "Pa, you earn so much money. Why are you making a fuss over 12 ringgit Starbucks?" I said, because the mama shop sells it to me for 1 ringgit 80 cents. I can just drink coffee there. So one day I told her, I tell you what, tomorrow, stand outside the house and earn 12 ringgit for me without asking your uncles, aunties, neighbor, or anybody. Just go and earn 12 ringgit and come and give it to me. I'll give you Starbucks for the rest of your life. Just go and do that. 12 ringgit. She knew it couldn't happen. So I told her it's very hard to earn money. It's so easy to spend it, right? So that's a value. So many of the things that Joshua talked about, I think I've learned from your father. So, Starbucks versus, interestingly, and I remember this business of spending money carefully because when I was, 11 years old, I wanted to go and learn how to play the organ. It cost 5 ringgit a month. And when I asked my father, he told me, I can't give you 5 ringgit. If I give you 5 ringgit, then I got no money for bus fare for you to go to school. And my father used to go to the shop and drink teh o kosong. And when I asked him why, he said, with sugar is 5 ringgit, 5 cents extra. So with kosong, I will save, 1 ringgit 50 cents a month or something like that. 5 cents a day I save. 30 days is 1 ringgit 50 cents. And I spend money obscenely when I compare with what my father did, So that's why I'm very, very careful with my child as well as to, how you spend money, etc. I think honest discussion is really important. Open discussion is even more important these days. I mean, those days I would not even dare to hold a girl's hand anywhere in my whole kampung because somebody would see it and go and tell my father, right? Now my daughter watches things on TV that makes me uncomfortable. Although she stands up and walks away as well. Whenever I'm around, she never watches anything which has even a kiss scene because she's uncomfortable that I'm around, and we have brought her up in that sort of way. But I have very open and honest discussions with her, especially about Facebook, Instagram, and all of these things. Now, I think all of us should watch this Netflix documentary called The Social Dilemma. It will open your eyes to what Facebook, Netflix, Instagram, and all of these things actually does to your privacy and to your lives. Okay, it's really important that they understand that it's just a vacuum that pulls you away from your work and everything and just sucks you into mindless and endless communication with people. Now, however, we have to get with the times. we are not living in my parents' times or your parents' times, right? Things have changed. So we have to adapt and say, okay, Facebook can within limits, just like everything else, right? Instagram can within limits. I find out you did something you're not supposed to do, I take it off. You don't like it, my view, okay, this is not necessarily the view you will share. You don't like my rules, find another place to stay. That's okay with me. Because I'm the one who is struggling to earn the money for you to go and do whatever you want to do. So you have to show some respect and spend my money and my time carefully. The other thing I wanted to just talk about was, just to say in summary, was when I listened to both Joshua and Shairos, you guys were saying exactly, culturally, we are so similar. Forget about the fact that you're Malay, Indian, Chinese, whatever. Culturally, we all have so many similarities. Behavior in front of people, culture, togetherness, character building is a response. I'm telling you, I will remember that line, Cyrus. Thank you so much for that line. Character building is the responsibility of the parent. That's a fantastic line. And I'll tell my daughter why I do what I do, because you said so too. So absolutely true. Absolutely true. So we have got so many similarities in how we bring our children up. That's all I have, Ahmad.
Oh, excellent wrapping up then, Winston. And I could see that suddenly we thought that we are living in a different world, and yet, it's not really a vacuum. It's maybe happening in our own part and corner of the house, but actually it resonates in other houses across. Otherwise, we may not be enjoying the childhood of our friends who have some really distinct values. So it shows a lot that we may be different physically or different in the name or different in our features, but we have shared lots of common universal values, to become the real human being. And I think a couple of points I wanted to mention was the issue of consequence management. Yeah. So are we fathers do what we really meant to do? So consequence management, we talk about in the corporate world, but whether we really talk in our own house or not. And that's where children would be sending their own naughty behavior to see what reaction you are going to get from their part. The other thing is some values now. I think that value that everyone spoke about money is easy to spend, but not easy to earn. And that's where our children take things for granted in the current era. Every time we say we don't have money, we go to the bank and they observe us putting in the ATM. And they say, yeah, that's how money is being made, not on trees, but on machines. So they take it for granted. And I like the way that you make an example. I mean, for me, whenever the electric bill shot up because of the aircon or usage of gadgets, I put the monthly TNB bill at the fridge and tell them, look, if we go more than what it is, and we have to show that. And we have to mandate that, and then we just have to give the children the understanding of there is some kind of ruling. Shairos, see now, how do we handle the new challenges from your perspective when it comes to the children demanding? The children feel that this is their sense of entitlement because others are having it, I must have it. So give us some tips now, Shairos, although Winston talks about this little samurai paper sword. Let's hear from you, Shairos.
Fantastic. Again, I also resonate with the rest of the panelists. So much similarities, so much similarities. I think it's not really, to me personally, it's not much about the culture of Malay, Chinese, Indian, tetapi it's about values. When Fakri mentioned about values, I would like to share this particular aspect where I call it intentional role play. Intentional role play in my upbringing for my children. I do this consciously, intentional role play, whereby, for example, to love their mother, to love their grandmother, to love their siblings. I purposely, for example, number one, to love the mother, I would show how much I love my wife. I love my wife. I give her birthday card. I order cake. I'll have a small birthday party, get balloons, just to show how to love your wife. Because I remember that was how my father did. And then I want to do this role play so that my kids, who are 4 boys, when they grow up, they must know how to love their wife. So they must celebrate, must appreciate, must hug, must kiss. So these are intentionally done. When I help my wife in the kitchen, I hug, I kiss her. When my wife is not well, I hug, I kiss her. I give her Panadol, I go bring her to the clinic without delay. So this is how I purposely do it, so that my boys, when they grow up, they can't see what their grandparents did. So I would have to do what my father did. So I will show that to my kids, the boys. When they grow up, to love your wife is how daddy love mommy. And when daddy hugs, daddy kiss, daddy brings mommy to the doctor, celebrate her birthday, give her a birthday card. So these are little things which I do it purposefully so that my boys will follow. Next, about loving mother. How I purposely show I love my mother. I call my mother without fail every day. Phone call. I send birthday gifts. We celebrate whenever. Last time we don't have PKP, we celebrate birthday. When my mother is not well, we visit. When my mother is craving for some food, we'll try to look for it. That is the message that I would like my boys to remember. When you grow up, you have to remember about your mother. How daddy does that, you have to do that. Oh, daddy calls mommy, grandma every week, every day. Daddy will see that whatever grandma wants, we have to do that. So that when they grow up as father, they don't forget about their mother. When they grow up, do not forget to call their mommy. When they grow up, do not forget no matter how big your house is, you must always welcome your mother to your house. You must make sure the room is ready for your mother whenever your mother comes and visit. When your mother wants to come and have spend time with your grandkids, you have to make sure that is available and to show respect to your grandmother. So I do that intentionally. And to last one, the third one is to love your siblings. I only have one sister, but I show how again, because we were brought up, me as a small family, we were brought up very close. We hug and kiss a lot, and then we spend a lot of time together, eating time, talking, speaking respectfully. She knows I'm the elder brother. She calls me abang, and then I always try to make the point that my children, who no matter you are almost the same age, but who is abang is abang. You have to remember that, but at the same time to show respect and love. Similarly, sending birthday cards, showing respect, eating together. Whenever it's mealtime, we eat together. When the abang is not at the table yet, you wait for the abang. And then when the abang wants to go and to the toilet, you give the abang to use the toilet first. So these are the little things, the respect that I intentionally do as a role play, so that they know how to love their spouses, how to love their mother, their grandparents, and their siblings. I believe these little values, it may sound a bit funny to others, but I personally feel that I have to do this. Like what Winston and Joshua said, how the kids look up or copy or duplicate the father, especially. So the kind of duplicating is very much important. And when we consciously know that the children are duplicating, hence, we have to be a good photocopy machine. A good photocopy machine has always to produce make good copies. Just a metaphor. So these are the little things which I believe the intentional role play that I have done, and I will have to continue to do that until they are big enough. My eldest is 18, then it's 13, 12, and 10. So there are long way to go. And when I do this, I see that slowly but surely they will follow. And I pray to God, when they grow up, whatever good things that I have shown, they will copy. And what are the not so good things they see, they will try to avoid. There are things, there are moments in our life, I believe I'm not a perfect father. I might say the wrong things, I might do the wrong things, which I might raise my voice unintentionally also to my wife without realizing that they are looking at me. But things happen. So I have to play, when I mentioned to Ahmad Fakri just now, I play the good cop and bad cop approach. Is that no matter how I am a disciplinarian at home, yes, I am their closest buddy. People can see, I always post in the Facebook, I play hide and seek at home. I hide under the bed. I do camping with them. I do car wash together at home. And we bathe outside of the house and shower. And then we do go picnic, and I am their float. You can see how big I am. I can be the float for everyone. And they swim together with me. They eat. They can jump all over me, and I can still be their disciplinary teacher. But nevertheless, when they have that kind of father figure at home, they know whenever they need to play around, because my wife do not have that kind of time or energy to jump around. I don't know where I get that from. And now I realize that was the spirit from my father. He used to spend and do all these funny things with us. And now I am doing it back to my children. Yes, he was a very strict father. And yes, I am a strict father. But at the same time, I'm the clown of the house. I'll do jokes. I'll do party. I'll dress up like a clown. I will literally dress up like a clown during a party. And the kids will see that this is their friend. This is their father who they can be at home and enjoy themselves regardless, no matter how difficult it is with their studies. They know they can have fun while being at home, especially during this pandemic time. Yeah, Mak Fakri.
Yes, Shairos, certainly enlightening for you now to be able to interact with your boys. Certainly that's very interesting, because there's a few concepts that came out from what you did. Number one, it's called teachable point of moment. Teachable moment, where you want your act to be something for the children to take away, not just any act. And in the act of doing things small, this is what a study been made called small things means big. So the concept is called micro inequities. This concept shows that if you do negative things in small manner, like you don't say good morning, you don't send a normal WhatsApp message. So these are the small things, and people will be wondering, that has a lot of meaning, especially consistency. You know, it has been happening in office environment. You go for lunch, you invite people, but you don't invite this particular person, either because of the strange way or how people perceive. That is micro inequities. And the other thing that I wanted to see when you were pointing about your experience with your father, there was this anecdote about a man who says that, I wish when we grow up, our children do not make us like football. They kick us around from one child, from the ball to one another. And how I wish our children would treat us like rugby ball, because they will held onto the ball and run even though people were chasing them, try to scrum half them and whack them, but they held the ball like they're holding their life. This is where I think we want our children to be able to see when we grow old and no longer able to even take care of ourselves and the frail condition. So Joshua, how did the Chinese, probably your experience for that matter with these contemporary issues that you see beginning to drain us as parents when children are demanding or children want certain things? And apart from what Shairos says, his demonstrable behavior intentionally, and Winston with some of his uncompromising straight talk. Your perspective, Joshua.
Okay, hey, thank you, Ahmad. And I really appreciate of this, partnership and also this initiative to get fathers or men from different culture. In fact, I believe that we thought that we are so much different when we shared, we find a lot of commonality. I'm not sure whether it's an Ipoh thing or like what Ahmad said, probably it's a human thing. So I appreciate what Winston and Shairos have shared, that about the consistency from Winston and also Shairos about intentional. So I believe that yes, fathering or parenting should be intentional. So I really appreciate what you have shared. I hope that the participant will catch it. And yes, I think what I observed is that with all this technology advancement and also social media, I think in terms of Chinese families, initially, I think all this gaming, I think it was supposed to be a replacement. When parents do not have time for their kids, they thought that, some of them, they felt guilty. Like, I think a lot of Chinese family where the both husband and wives are working, like what Shara shared earlier in his earliest day, where, the kids have to be put in the relative's house, whether in-laws or even daycare. So they've, like, over the weekend, that's the only time they could have. So, I believe that, research have shown that actually children need us, especially father as well. And then when we could not fulfill, then we thought that, by giving them gadget, social media and or anything, toys, could be a good replacement. So when they need us, we couldn't fulfill that. And when they slowly grow up, they already addicted with that, So when you see problem arising, you want to stop, or you think you have to stop it. That's a bit tricky. I think that's what a lot of urban parents are facing nowadays. And also, although we try to control the screen time, but we have to admit that, while the CMCO is implement and the second lockdown, and we have to work from home, it's really, we have to admit that it's really tricky, to find time to juggle about work from home, and also, you need to split the gadget for kids to have online classes, so it's, screen time is almost inevitable. It's very hard to avoid. But like Ahmad mentioned that I've been doing some of this fathering work, and also conducted some of this fathering workshop. I think one of the key point I would like to share is actually involvement. Yes, it's not easy, but we have to intentionally schedule that. I remember hearing a father say, he's in F&B business with a few outlets. He's pretty busy. So, when he attended one of our workshop, he actually shared that, he said, some of these managers, salesmen need to make appointment for them to see him, Then he actually felt so guilty. He never have an appointment for his daughters, He make time for others, but never make time for the person who is, means a lot to her. And in fact, I think a lot of fathers felt the same. In fact, why are we doing all these? Why are we working so hard? In fact, it's also for the future for our children. But then we actually neglecting the one most important thing that to our children, which means most important to them, is actually spending time with them. In fact, I heard a lot of fathers sharing, when they're sharing their memories with their fathers, it's actually the stuff they do together. So I actually appreciate Shairos when sharing, wash car together, playing together, do funny things together. In fact, those memories will stick in the memory of your kids forever. until they grow up, you know, and we didn't able to do that, and we replace it with game, with gadget, and then one of these days when they got addicted and have serious problem, then we complain about it. So I think we have to intentionally make time. Yeah, I do agree with Winston and Cheryl where you need to set boundaries. I think as a father, in terms of the role of protection, I think we have to do that, especially when your kids are still young. Like I did that as well. I think like all my YouTube channels and some of these platforms they are using, I sign up with my email. I think some of these parents you might need to consider that. So where they have gone, you know, you were aware. But if you never practiced that before and your kids is in pre-teens or teenager, that could be a little bit difficult. But you have to work on it. I always tell some of my friends, I say, earlier days, when we are still dialing the telephone with the round ringy thing, you remember? Okay, whenever a stranger or your friends call your home, when your parents pick up, if like I'm a boy, if a girl is calling, my dad would say, hey, how come a girl call you? Or when I still in primary, if an adult call, you say, hey, how come there's an adult looking for you? Is he your teacher or is she your teacher? At least last time the parents is the protection shield. You have to go through the parents. Can you imagine when you implement social media or handphone too early to your kids, and these people can directly contact your children, which you are no longer there to protect them. So I think it is advisable to set boundaries and some rules before giving them the gadget. And also I'm also aware that because of this generational change, because I've been to youth work as well, our children, they are the native of social media. They are the native citizen of this social media. We've been through the jarring, the one, darling, and then stream mix until now unify. We've been through every process. So I think it's a good journey. But then now kids nowadays, they just all these social medias and they are fed with a lot of information. That's why I can relate a little bit why, because when the elders teach us or ask us to do things, we say yes. Because last time, our only reference or the authority, it's our elders. When we do not know, we don't understand, we ask elders. But now, kids are fed with all this information, with all these experts, just a click away. So I can understand, with this change of scenarios, when we say things, if we do not explain. So I appreciate actually Winston's shared that, when he want to make his point, he would explain why he has to do it, why the daughter has to follow it. I think it's good way for parents as well, and to be consistent. Thank you, Winston. And that's why I believe that, so when we say things, if we do not explain ourselves or give them a good reason, they would definitely ask why. This is why the Y generation is called Y generation. They always ask why, I remember, our days, Ahmad, when elders say jump, we ask how high, now if we say jump to our kids, they say, why I need to jump? Why I cannot walk? People ask why, because they are fed with a lot of information, and sometimes it's also a challenge that they couldn't differentiate what's real or what's genuine, what's true. I think parents, besides involvement with your child and what Vincent shared about consistent, I think the third one is aware. We need to aware our child's world as well. So like in a lot of Chinese family, our common factor for not spending time is busyness, is because of work. But I always advise them, I say you have to make it intentional and be aware. Be aware not only what they are doing in school, what they are onto on their turf, their trends, but also aware. I remember reading a book from Dr. Ken Canfield saying that knowing your child, like Cheryl's got 4 boys, I believe, 4 of them have different character, have different strength, So when Dr. Ken Canfield mentioned about knowing your child or being aware, in fact, you have to pay attention to actually what different strength does all these different child have, and father can be a nurturer to help develop their skill. Like I remember Dr. Canfield sharing about, the daughter, it's a natural planner. So, and the eldest daughter, so he always get the daughter, the eldest girl to help to instruct. So he will instruct the eldest daughter. So the eldest daughter will instruct the siblings. So it also in a way helped her to develop her leadership skill. And I think Ahmad, I remember attending some of these talks. Ahmad have a lot of all these tips and practical tips. I remember Ahmad sharing all these like gave your children 50 ringgit, each. You're going to a bookstore, so you have to decide whether to pack up together to buy something bigger or you want to use it for. So it's always, and also a choices they have to make. So I think those are superb tips, and then perhaps later, Ahmad, you can give. I think so. So when you say when I say we need to be aware of your children, I think there are some practical ways for us to do this. And in conclusion as well, when we are stuck at home, recently what I'm practicing is that, yes, a lot of parents and fathers are struggling and stressful because you need to do things, you have to work, and then you need to take care of your children at the same time. So the other day I was figuring out, what gets us so stressful and so tired because of the house chore as well. So I thought mine as well, now we have the time. So I better spend time teaching my kids, how to do house chore. Yes, it takes a little bit more time, but then I think it's great. The other day I was mopping the floor together with my 4-year-old kid, daughter. And also when I was doing all this, the other day, this teaching and online webinar, I get my boys, I actually sign up a online course to talk about editing. So I get my eldest boy to do it. So my 2 boys to do it. So I say, hey, when daddy recorded a video, you guys help me to do the editing. So yes, it might not be perfect, at times, but then I felt like, everything can be turned into a father-child bonding session, like what Shiros did, So I think, yes, let's not, keep complaining and, stress about it. Why not, turn everything into a father-child, parent-child bonding session where you can do things together. In fact, I believe that when we do things together, like what Shara shared, when we have the relationship, they will listen to you. So yes, there are threats outside our 4 walls that, social media, fake news, immorality, but then I believe when we have good relationship with our kids, I remember one counselor say, sometimes kids a bit naive, but then they wouldn't want to try to do something hurtful to their parents when they know that, you love them so much, they will be a responsible adult, for some days, because they know that your love for him is genuine. Yeah. Yep. Thank you. Over to you, Ahmad.
Thank you. It was a great sharing also, Joshua, to see some of your thoughts in terms of making sure you are involved, you are also aware, and you are also connected with the children. And if all the fathers who said just now, the panelists who have said just now, there's probably one word that I could say would resulted in the outcome of what they did to their children. And that one word, in my personal view, is called trust. You invested in them, you played with them, you engaged with them, so that then develop the trust that I have grown in this world, and this is one person, this is the parent that I can trust and put my life. And I think that's a very important feeling, especially nowadays with mental depression, with children feeling at loss, children feeling that they have been abandoned and isolated simply because their parents, maybe with good intention, but giving them words and information and messages that doesn't really get well into their ways of solving their issues and challenge. There's only 2 quick one that I just wanted to highlight. One was question about online handphone addiction, one, and the second one is about raising children during in-laws or parents. So just open up to any of the, to do quickly because of the time constraint.
This is my 4 boys.
Oh, okay, boys.
All right.
The 4 musketeers.
All right, 4 musketeers.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. Well done. So any quick one, anyone just on, so I think on the online, if I just want to quickly respond is you have to have your own house rule of who is in control. Is it the gadget? Is it you, the owner of the handphone? Because if either one did not control, then the other party will control the,
Yes.
the person. So timing, it has to be done upfront, consequence management. I knew some
Yeah.
parents would do this kind of, if you just like what Winston did just now, finish your homework, nothing must begin, no TV, no handphone, nothing until you finish a certain chore and task, because that is paramount in their life. So that's probably something I can share. Anyone from the other panelists?
From a safety
Yeah.
point of view, oh, sorry, go ahead, please.
Just go ahead and Winston.
No,
then I'll-
Winston, go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah.
Winston.
From a safety point of view, I would strongly encourage parents that at least for the younger, first of all, we gave my daughter a mobile phone and Facebook access only when she was 15. Until then, nothing doing. She tried everything in the world and the answer was no. And the reason I did that was I knew what damage this can do to your brain. The more you keep it beside your ear, I know this is going to do something to you at some point in your life. I just don't know what it is and I don't want to take the risk. Secondly, the rule that we had with her was at 9 p.m. Now it has changed because she's 20 years old and she's studying in her room all the time. But for the first 2 or 3 years of her life, we told her that at 9 p.m., the phone must be outside on the table and not in her room, because I didn't want her using a mobile phone inside the room. I don't know what she's doing and I don't know how long she's speaking. So I think it is a reward. I'll give this to you on condition you follow a set of rules. When you don't follow those rules, I'm sorry, I'll take it away. And again, it goes back to where you started. If you had set these rules clearly upfront, it's a lot easier. If you didn't, of course, it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Joshua, you was about to say something?
Yeah, I agree with what Winston shared. Yeah, not to give gadget or the access too early. And then I agree with Winston that you need to set rules beforehand. And then for those who are already in the crisis where you didn't do both of these two earlier, and yet now they are into addictions, and I believe that research and show when you take those away, there are tantrums, or even they want to fight you, but then try to explain. And also it would be good if you can implement something in return, in replacement. So like I know now it's a little bit difficult, but before that, because my eldest, when we were inexperienced, we also implemented a gadget and YouTube too early, not to his own. We let him watch it, but then later we try to cultivate a family sport and do something together, where I know it's not easy for parents. We always complain, I already so tired, you need to do it. But for the sake of your children, I believe it's worth it. If you don't spend time now, like what Ahmad just now, some of these proverbs, this wisdom, you don't spend time now, I believe, and I'm afraid that later you need to spend time to go to police station to bail him out. So I would really advise, do things together in replacement of that, and you will appreciate that, and try to do things without. There was one time we visited Pulau Ketam, where there is no coverage. We have been not using phone for 3 days, and we thought that it was impossible, but then it's possible. So in fact, try to think of something to do together, without any gadgets, like what Shira shared earlier. Camping. I don't know whether you do it camping outside the house or inside the house. Now because of the
inside the house.
Yes, yeah. So that could be something interesting to do together.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Short one. Any experience on raising children if you do live in with your in-laws?
I had my in-laws. My mother-in-law staying with us for the first few years, and when we came back, before we moved to Switzerland, and we had a difficult time because my mother-in-law's view of discipline and mine are very different, especially grandmother's views. My wife struggled with that, but I made it very clear to my wife privately. In the long run, we want what's best for our child. No, my mother-in-law and I and my wife are not going to be here forever. My child will be here a lot longer than us. We need to do the right thing. So if you can't do it, I will. So, but we very gently and tactfully tackle the subject because it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Again, because we are Asian, it's so hard for us
Yeah.
to go and speak like that to our in-laws. It's impossible. So
Yeah.
it's got to be done very tactfully and gently.
Yeah, for me now, I'm also a grandparent, a grandfather being grandparent. The dynamics and the emotional bonding with grandchildren are totally different and unique. So how you treat them and how their parents treat them is obviously two different areas. So to me, the center is you and your wife, and the two parents are on the other side. We ask advice, but they are on the ball in terms of handling the matter. So be having some clear understanding, some very definite rules of the game, and therefore you can be assured that it is something that you need to work on then. So indeed, I saw a message about this father being poked with the knife and the father died because I think it's getting on now, because when you are addicted, it takes over the brain, amygdala, and they hijack what is happening
Yeah.
to the way you see things, and therefore you believe that any hindrance, any obstacle, it must be removed. And there's so many cases already happening around the world. In China and Korea, places are doing addiction camp and teaching children. And I echo what Joshua said about finding alternatives, playing games. And they were asked to play basketball. And one of the boys came back to say that I never knew playing basketball is so good as compared to playing it in line then.
Mat,
Yeah.
if I may just add a little bit to what you mentioned just now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Mat, I would just like to add a little bit on the gadgets control. Similarly, for my boys also, there is this time allocation for them to use their gadgets. Obviously, only my eldest son was given a handphone, and when he finished Form 5. Other than that, like Winston, no business whatsoever. The three brothers will dream on getting a handphone, because why? I think and I feel the same like Winston and Joshua, that we need to ensure that we are in control of the exposure. But to my surprise, I thought I was already smart. When I took the handphone privilege, but I gave them laptops especially nowadays, to do their online classes. And they could already access their Instagram and Facebook. And they still communicate with the rest of the world and their friends via laptop. They say, okay, daddy, never mind. You can take away don't give us the handphone, but we have laptop. And they will find time and squeeze in between classes to go into Facebook and also WhatsApp and whatever. They try to play around. But nevertheless, the big brother will always tell me, Daddy, the little ones are trying to be naughty. They're going here and there. But they know consciously that they are being monitored.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. I'm sorry that we already hit the time. It's just sort of not fly. It's just sort of zoom away, and we didn't feel it because it was such an engaging, enriching, and enlightening for many of us. So, two things before we leave. Number one, we'll make some announcement for those relevant for this group. And then lastly, we'll give about 1 minute or so to each of the panel to have their final remarks before we make our go then. So Joshua, what's your announcement?
Yeah, for all the parents here participated here, we are having a national symposium on fathering for starting today, 19th, 20th, and 21st. It will be broadcast live through Facebook page, our Facebook page. You can search through Facebook Better Dads Malaysia. Yeah, you can watch it on Facebook Live. So we will continue to talk about fathering in the pandemic. Hopefully, it will be helpful to you.
Yeah. All right. So for me, next week, if you are available on the 25th, same time at 12, Jamila and I will be having a specialist on a doctor or psychiatrist. He is specializing in suicidal case. So he is going to talk about depression and suicide. And we will have a visitor who will do a comment from Japan, also sharing his experience. So this is how parenting can help those children having mental health. And the second one is on December the 12th. There will be a digital dilemma panel session. So go into my Facebook, Ahmad Fakri. There's the detail where we connect people from different parts of the world: Australia, Japan, Middle East, and also UK, Ireland, to participate in this discussion on how the digital era has made some impact, not only to the marriage life, not only to the parenting, but also to the family institution then. So watch the space. That's on the 12th of December. So guys, 1 minute from you now. Anyone can start first as your final remarks on all that we have said today. Winston, Shiros, Joshua.
I'll start and try to finish this in 1 minute. As a father, I think I've also matured. I've grown up the maturity curve. I started off being the typical Indian father, very strict. These are my rules. It's my way or the highway. And now my daughter is 20 years old, and I've learned from her that I have to also learn to adjust. Because one of the things I've told her is treat people the way you want to be treated. So now I have to treat her the way I want her to treat me. So I treat her with a lot of respect, and we are best of friends. I mean, she thinks that her mother and I are her best friends. She tells us everything about the boys and everything we know, which is great. She would call me at 1:30 in the morning from the UK and say, I'm going out to the club with my friends in a taxi, just letting you know I'll be back at 4:30, but you told me to tell you everything I'm telling you, which is great for me because I think that's important that she tells me that. There's a lot of trust. We treat each other as adults. There's a lot of love. And she knows that the reason I do all of these things is because of love and nothing else.
Okay.
So I'm just saying this because as we grow older, as they grow up, they need to know that they're being treated as adults too.
All right. Yeah. Treat them with respect and you'll earn it then. Shiros, your final words of wisdom.
If time is a challenge, challenge the time. We always say that we are very busy. Time is a challenge to every one of us, especially working parents. So I challenge the time. How do we challenge the time? We spend quality time with our kids. Then we overcome the time limitation that we have. Challenging it by spending time. If they like to watch YouTube together with them. If they like to play PlayStation, play PlayStation with them. So we beat the time, challenge the time. Don't give excuses that time is a challenge for parents or for fathers to be with their kids. Challenge the time, be with the children, be with their kids, enjoy the moment with them, build trust, build relationship, build love. Back to you, Ahmad Fakri.
Thank you, then. Just a side track that the meaning of time, TIME, is test in measuring your effectiveness.
Awesome.
Joshua, your final words.
Yeah, I think fathering has to be intentional. And I think God is fair. Everyone is given 24 hours a day. So yes, we do feel ourselves overwhelmed with a busyness. We always say we do not have time. I believe that everyone has a choice. You can always decide to do things. And so I believe that we have to make time. In fact, we spend so much time, so much effort working. I think every one of us, we have the same goal. We are doing this because of the family. How come, while doing this, we neglect the most important people in your life? So I believe that, and also research has shown that, father has a tremendous impact on children. So one last word is that, I always say that, and especially on behalf of International Men's Day, one of the most important tasks for men is to learn to father. So a final word for father, you know, you have to be intentional, and what you did and what you put effort into is not only blessing your children, but your children's children. You know, you are impacting 2 generations. So I hope all fathers will strive to do to be a better father.
Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent then, Joshua. Certainly, when it comes to the Chinese wisdom on generation, the wealth is only lasts for 3 generations. The first one generate the wealth. The second generation grows the wealth, and the third generation will spend the wealth, hopefully wisely, if they have been given the sufficient knowledge and wisdom. I like to summarize that our entire 1.5 hour discussion into one word for all the fathers that I dedicated today in Men's Day. And the message is, you are leaving your own legacy to your progeny, to your people that you have invested heart and minds, blood, sweat that you toil, will hopefully yield the fruits of your own labor of love to your children. I wish all the best to all of you, and I hope that this has enlightened and enriched our thoughts, and hopefully it will inspire us to become a better person, a better father, and the best person that the mankind would see then. Thank you very much again to all our panelists, to all the participants. And if you need anything, it's in the Facebook and you can rewatch again then. Thank you very much. All the best. Good day to you all then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.